Hello, I'm doing a voiceover of this presentation I've created for climate change and carbon sequestration, uh, biological solutions for a sustainable future. So, the introduction. What is climate change? Well, climate change refers to the long term shifts in temperature and weather patterns. Human activity has been the main driver of climate change, primarily due to burning of coal and other fossil fuels. Um, and the number one, or one of the two biggest things, the other is methane, but one of the two biggest greenhouse gases is carbon dioxide. It's kind of the main thing that causes climate change to happen. CO2 is a greenhouse gas. It accumulates in the atmosphere, traps the sun heat, and raises temperatures. So, the problem, obviously, climate change is pretty bad. And I'm focusing on carbon sequestration as a solution. So, what is carbon sequestration? Well, it's the process of capturing and storing atmospheric carbon dioxide. Um, as I said, the problem is rising CO2 levels, fueling global warming, um, and existing emissions reduction isn't enough. We need to also actively remove CO2 from the atmosphere. So here's a little diagram showing that, showing carbon sequestration. Um, why it's biological? It involves forests, soil microbes, ocean phytoplankton, etc. Forests play a large role in climate change through carbon sequestration. Carbon is sequestered within tree biomass, with more than 50% of dry tree biomass being carbon, which is absorbed through photosynthesis and stored in plant tissues. Soil microbe growth and metabolism lead to long-term soil carbon sequestration. They are responsible for breaking down organic matter, and they contribute significantly to stabilizing carbon in soils. And then phytoplankton drive the ocean's biological carbon pump by transferring carbon from the atmosphere to the deep sea. So on the top right, that is a diagram showing the forest carbon sequestration cycle. And then the bottom is a schematic of the phytoplankton biological pump. So another diagram of kind of the carbon sequestration cycle, specifically in the ocean. Why it's relevant to sustainability / sustainable design. I actually found an interesting study that talked about urban parks being crucial in mitigating climate change, as the trees and turf grass contribute to carbon capture, functioning as natural carbon sinks in densely populated cities. Right there is a diagram of carbon assessment in an urban park system. It also supports biodiversity, soil health, and ecosystem services, and carbon sequestration can serve as a bridge to a lower carbon future by naturally removing carbon from the atmosphere. So the impact of the problem: some global impacts, more intense wildfires, droughts, and floods. For example, I actually did a study, 2 years ago, and we were looking at a species of grass in a longleaf pine ecosystem, and we had the plants flooded, and some that weren't, and we measured different characteristics about them, and one of them was plant stress, which is showed in the bar graph. And the reason for that study was because of increased hurricane frequency due to climate change, which also causes a higher frequency of floods, and showing how that can devastate already endangered ecosystems, as the longleaf pine ecosystem is kind of almost all gone. Another global impacts habitat loss and species extinction kind of ties into the study I just mentioned. And then food insecurity is another big impact. Biological impacts, stressed ecosystems can actually flip from carbon sinks to carbon sources, which is a problem. And degraded soils lose their microbial capacity to store carbon, also a big issue. Some sustainability applications, reforestation and afforestation, planting trees in degraded or previously unforested lands to act as long-term carbon sinks. Some blue carbon projects, restoring mangroves, salt marshes, and seagrasses, which store carbon in both biomass and underwater soils. Biochar, burning organic material in low oxygen conditions to create charcoal-like biochar, which locks carbon in soils for hundreds of years. And agroecology, promoting soil health and carbon storage by adopting crop rotations, reduced tillage, cover cropping, and composting. So this diagram is a diagram of it relates to the blue carbon projects. So the showing the carbon that's captured in these coastal ecosystems. It's captured in the roots, stems, and leaves of the plants. So for the call to action, why we need to act. Nature-based solutions are low-cost, scalable, and already available. So easy to implement, shouldn't be too big of an issue. And enhancing them supports multiple sustainable goals: clean air, food, biodiversity. Easy way to mitigate climate change. What biology can do: biologists can restore degraded ecosystems, improve microbial pathways, and find more natural ways to store carbon. Tapping into the biology of carbon sequestration is one of the most nature-based, low risks, and scalable ways to mitigate climate change. It also aligns with multiple UN Sustainable Development Guide goals, including SDG 13, Climate Action, SDG 15, Life on Land, and SDG 2, Zero Hunger. Here are my references. Another page. And that is all. Thank you.